Andy, king of the Discord, heading into 2025. Higher odds. Woody opts out of MetLife in 2025 to build their own stadium finally, or someone in the front office is subbed to the Badlands in the Discord. So we're relatively confident there's a couple people from the Jets
It's like
organization
minus 2,000 that it's the
who are in the Discord or monitor the Discord, which is part of their job, and it's good. It's great. We from what we know and what we gather, the Jets organization is aware of what's going on and listens to a lot of our stuff and pokes around the Discord. So someone's in there. Who it is, I have no idea, but someone's in there. I don't think the Jets are going to get their own stadium anytime soon. Do I think it will happen in my lifetime? I hope, but I don't think it's like imminent in any way. It's kind of like waiting for Woody to sell the team. That feels like a 2035 thing, not a 2025 thing. They had their window for it to happen, and it would have been fascinating to see that play out. And I just think, unfortunately, we're going to be dealing with the American Dream Mall and Route 17 and East Rutherford for probably about 10 more years. So what do you think?
Yeah, I don't expect that at all. I know it's in 2025, and then there's an opportunity in 2030, 2035, 2040, if I understand correctly. I mean, no, they would have already gotten ahead of this, I would think.
Yeah.
It's my problem with this is like, and I know I've made a really not bad habit. I think it's a totally apt comparison. I actually saw somebody comment and appreciating it, and I appreciate them saying that. I've become the person on this show that compares everything to the Steve Cohen Mets.
Yeah.
But I really, it's an easy way to do things sometimes. Like I sit here and go, if this was Steve Cohen and he bought the Jets instead of the Mets, I think this combo would be totally different. Because it's just, you look at him trying to build up everything around Citi Field. Like they want a casino, they have a soccer field, like hotels. And it's not necessarily an insult at Woody Johnson this time. I just think, I guess it partially is a little bit. This isn't an organization that reaches for those kinds of, like and once again, I know it's Yankee fans listening are probably like, oh my God, enough. But what I've witnessed, and I've gone down to Port St. Lucie spring training. I walk around credentialed at Citi Field. Like, so I'm not just in the stands, like under the stadium. What the money the Mets have spent since Steve Cohen bought the team to make everything better in every facility is something that you would think every owner in every sport should do because it makes a better product for you and a better environment for your employees. And MetLife, whether you want to admit it or not, is a disaster. But it's not enough of a disaster that the Jets will be bullied into opting out, so they won't do it. Like it's safe enough. I know the turf is a different question, but I mean, it's not like it has like safety hazards. It's a newer stadium, so that's not going to be an issue. If the Jets win, fans will go, right? Like full transparency. If the Jets win, fans will go. So that's not really, you can't sit there and be like, oh man, it's 5 hours away from where all the fan base is. That's not an argument. So they're not going to, because there's no bullying them into it. But it's the conversation of like, you should have bigger aspirations by a lot, but you don't need to, so you won't.
Yeah, it's going to take a new owner, I think, to get a new building. I just, for right now, and there's other complications with the Maras and the Giants and the state of New Jersey. That's part of the issue.
Like, you need to get away from that.
Yeah, you want to get away from it, and ideally that would be part of what a new owner did, who was forward-thinking, to be like, look, like, I know this is going to cost a gajillion dollars to buy, but I could increase the value so much more because I'm going to put up a stadium in Queens. I'm going to build up around, I'm using a hypothetical, Queens or Long Island or the west side of Manhattan. I'm going to build up around it. It's also going to host this, and this. It's going to, be state-of-the-art everything. And
come to Westchester.
Yeah, right in the backyard, right over the Tappan Zee Bridge. It's going to add $200 million of value to the franchise, but that's not a this decade conversation, unfortunately. So get used to the Secaucus Junction and hopping out of the train and walking.
Yeah, I was going to say, tunnel. You've taken the train to the game, right?
Yes,
man, I have too. Especially when I lived in Hoboken and I wasn't doing media for the Jets.
There's nothing worse than taking that train home after the Jets don't score a touchdown in a loss and it's just packed and it's late and it's I'm getting like PTSD talking about it. Damn. All right.
It was eye-opening to me because they built MetLife, right? And I spent a lot of my childhood in the Meadowlands. And then, I went to MetLife plenty. And then I started to work in sports, and it's specifically more for college football. I've been to way more college stadiums than NFL stadiums. And I'd go to college stadiums and be like, wow, everything about this is easy. Yeah, and then I went back to MetLife and I was like, oh, I never knew because I didn't know really anything else. But this is absolutely insane.
It's insane. The first other NFL stadium I went to was actually in Atlanta for the Rams Super Bowl.
Like jaw-dropping.
And as a Jets fan, I was like, wow, this is like a whole different world. And I went this past year to Chiefs 49ers in Vegas. Same deal. I was like, this is a whole different thing. I hope for a better experience. I actually truly miss the old Giant Stadium. Now, I'm extra bias and nostalgia to that because I got to play my high school state championship in the old Giant Stadium, which we won in double overtime, by the way, which was great on a Saturday night. But that was a more positive experience than the current MetLife. Underdog fantasy playoffs are almost here. We only have one more week to do our Jets high or lowers. Tragic time. We can only pound those lowers for so long, but then we'll get to move on to the playoffs. Need you to use promo code Badlands for that deposit match. We'll be rolling all the way up through the Super Bowl. CR, what's on your mind with Jets Dolphins to close the season?
This could be a little ugly. Now, Rodgers is still trying to throw the 500 touchdown. That puts Devontae very, very much in play. We got to see if Snoop Huntley's on the other side of things.
Oh, boy.
There's a lot of niche. We saw Tyler. You have to wonder, does Tyrod finish this game? And Tyrod is locked on to Conklin and Garrett Wilson. So there's some niche plays here.
There's going to be something to be done. So look out for our picks. And again, make sure to tail with promo code Badlands on Underdog Fantasy. All right, from Jay Targ. If you guys each had the chance to ask Woody Johnson one question that he had to answer truthfully, what would it be?
Oh, boy.
Oh, man. This is a tough one.
Well, you have to be calculated because you have to think like what's going to get the best answer. You can't just assume you'll get the answer you want.
Yeah, is it like a conversation over a couple whiskeys at like an NFL event?
Let's go that route. Yes, let's go that route.
Because we're not press conference guys yelling out. Even if we had the right,
you don't get anything anymore.
You're not going to get anything.
Thinking is overrated.
Yeah, Jesus Christ! What a perfect summary of this season as Michael Clemens Spider-Man jumps onto people. I'd be very curious for his POV on what decisions he regrets the most and how he plans to learn from them to better improve the team going forward. So I would kind of, you're never a dick in these situations, right? For when you actually get an opportunity to like talk to these people in person, you're not going to be like jumping down this guy's throat. So you're going to be like, look, like when you bought this team, you were really good for the first like 10 or 11 years. And we almost made the Super Bowl like twice. And it was awesome. Since then, it's been not so good. So when you look back, you've been doing this for 2 decades plus now, like where do you feel like you made a couple of mistakes? And then like, how do you take that knowledge to like learn from it and turn this around as quick as possible? I'd probably also ask and press can you give this next regime some version of a playoff mandate? Because this is such a unique situation that the monkey has to get off the playoff back before anything else can move forward. That's roughly how I'd frame it to him.
It's funny you end with that because I was thinking about it today. I think I was watching the video of the Bills. So the Bills had a 17-year drought, which, by the way, getting scary hours, getting close.
You know who ended it? Tyrod Taylor, baby.
Right. Would that not be poetic if Tyrod lives it next year?
Crazy.
That'd be amazing.
Playing Jacksonville round 1 again and Blake Bortles or whoever it was.
They were frantically in the locker room, I think, watching the results of a game to see how it would affect them. And it was very emotional for them. And it hit me. I'm like, oh my God, when the Jets do it, it's going to be pretty emotional. And there's a side of that where you go, well, yeah, that sucks. Like, how did this happen? There's the other side of it, which you just said, and I agree with. Like, you got to get that scent out of the room. It can't be a talking point anymore because it's an awful burden to carry, especially for guys. Yeah. No human, besides Woody, and he doesn't, I don't think he thinks like this, carries the burden of all 14 years. There's no player has been there all 14 years. It's impossible. So that's That's a really good one. I think I would ask him about every individual at a point of power in the organization, and I won't say names on this show, and ask, what do you like about them? What are they good about? What are they good at? And what do you trust them with responsibilities wise? Because I don't know truly. Like I think about how much time I dedicate my life to this team, and there are multiple people in positions of power with the organization, and I don't know why. So,
Yeah.
and that's not me saying they shouldn't be. I'm saying I don't know why they are. And I like to consider myself plugged in enough with a lot of people, not only around the league, but around the Jets, that I ask and I don't get answers from them. So that would be my hard truth conversation with him. And maybe he'd give me a good answer. I'd be like, okay, I know why that person works there, but maybe he wouldn't.
I should have did this last year when I was at NFL Honors. This was actually, I was like 10 feet from Woody when
it's got to be a weird feeling
throwing Zach Wilson under the bus and saying, like, if we had a real backup quarterback, which I was like, wow, this is, but he was there with Chris and a couple other people from the family. Actually, in retrospect, I think Brick was with them now, but I was like bouncing around like a lot of these NFL events. And I try to be, because I have a day job and I have other reasons. I was at the Super Bowl. I wasn't there because of Badlands. So like, this didn't feel like an appropriate time and place to be like, hey, this is Jets podcast. I got these like really weird in-depth questions about Hassan Reddick and stuff like that. Like, so I didn't do it, but at some point.
But you had the runway where you could have.
Yeah. I would like to think I could handle this stuff professionally. And it's weird that you and I used to do this stuff more when we were younger. Yeah. Maybe that is not a fluke, but like, we were not regularly, but enough times we're on like the New York Jets website. We went to Florham Park to film videos. I used to, along with a lot of other Jet content creators, regularly get the opportunity to go talk to different members of the business organization at the end of the year and kind of like shoot the shit at their offices in Midtown. That was a long time ago. We're talking like 10 to 15 years ago since any of that has happened. But maybe that stuff comes back around at some point.
It's really interesting you bring that up. It's because you're right. Like I think we host a podcast that has a pretty big platform and voice, which we're really grateful for. You would think the organization cares about, but we have no idea if they do. And if they don't, it's fine. It's not bothered. I do Jets pre and post game, which is the official affiliate of the team. It's not like some, mom and pop. We just do it for fun on SMY. Like that's why we get exclusives and I've never felt more distant from the organization. From not like I know what's going on and I watch more tape of this team and all of that stuff. And my relationships at SMY are amazing. But in terms of like the actual, and I have friends in the organization that's not, I don't reveal them public knowledge. And it's not that they're telling me anything interesting. It's just, you protect your friends because you don't want people to assume things. But like, from the actual professional bridge of us to the team, I've never felt more distant. Like you said, many years ago, it was totally different. I don't know why it changed, and I'm not making any assumptions why it changed. Like I've never told this story on the podcast, but back to your point, I remember I went up to probably the last green and white in Cortland, and so that was probably summer of 14.
Yeah.
And after the scrimmage, I was credentialed. I just walked right on the field and talked to John Idzik in the middle of the field, and I was 22 years old. And by the way, couldn't have been nicer to me. Wasn't like caught off guard. I think his wife was probably nearby too. And I don't really like to do that when people are with family, but I was 22 and I was like, when am I going to get the chance to talk to the GM of the Jets again? And this is when Idzik like was really new on the job. So he didn't have the perception that unfortunately he ended his tenure with, but he was very, very nice. And it wasn't weird is what I'm saying. Like it was like, I was a credentialed media member, even if I was 22 and you know how young I probably even looked back then. But it was just a normal football conversation. And I'm not blaming the Jets here, but you're right.